All right. Welcome to another episode of Real Talk Podcast, where we discuss the real estate and mortgage sales business, how to start them, grow them, and in particular, ways to exit them. Today, I'm really excited about my guest, Andrew Schlage. I met him in Louisville, Kentucky. I started having a conversation with him, and about 30 seconds in, I was like, man, I have got to get this on audio. The stuff he is saying is so stupid interesting that we just need to have a recorded interview, because what he is doing in real estate is awesome. He's not a sales agent, but to my knowledge anyways, but he is doing some really cool creative financing, seller financing stuff that is a really great opportunity for anyone that's in real estate sales, I think, to kind of get out of it and into something where you're not dealing with buyers and sellers. So that's it. That's what I know about Andrew. But Andrew, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Give us kind of a brief, your own description of yourself and what you're doing.
Yeah, Trevor, man, good to be with you. And when we connected and met, you started visiting. I also found it very interesting what you do, and I love that the cash flow you're building and just the tremendous chat we had there. But pleasure to be on with you, man. And I started out in real estate investing back in 2014, and I was 21 years old and broke, so wasn't able to go down to the bank and get a regular loan. And I quickly tapped into the creative finance side of things, and so I learned to buy houses on subject to owner financing, lease options, anything that involved not needing banks or money, and that's how I got started. And so in 2015, I kind of launched in a big way. I was 22 and I bought 50 houses that year, which was mind blowing to me that 22-year-old broke kid could accomplish that. And that's what transformed my life and started building my cash flow and set me on a trajectory to be able to now do what I love to do, which is help others start their success journeys.
That is incredible. 50 houses at 22 with no banks and no money.
Yep. All in creative finance.
All right. I got to hear about that, man. So what are you saying? How are you getting in front of these sellers, and what are you saying to them?
Yeah. So there's two ways to find houses like this, and they're all around us, except we don't know how to look for them, right? And so the two ways is, number one, we calling people that have houses for sale I say dial by the hundreds, because we're dialing people who have houses for sale and just asking them, would you be willing to take monthly payments until I pay you off in full? And of course, most people say no, but there's about, depending on the month, anywhere from 25 to 35% who say they would consider it. And out of that minority of sellers who say they'll consider it, then obviously we delve into what that means, and we close a few deals. And then the other way is to put word out. Hey, I buy houses. And so we just put word out. We buy houses, and it could be, bandit signs. It could be business cards. It could be posting online. It could be wherever. And we just put the word out, and people call us. So I always say we have to outbound call by the hundreds or get inbound calls by the dozens. When they call us, a great portion, sometimes up to 10, even 15 or 20% of the people who dial us, we actually end up buying their house.
Okay. What I did not hear in there, most of the time when I hear about creative financing stuff, people are going off market, buying batch leads, things like that. So is that not part of your playbook? You're just looking for existing on the MLS real estate for sale and then inbound calls? All right. So I heard, from the sounds of it, your two main ways are you're calling homes for sale, like on the MLS, and then you're relying on inbound calls. I didn't hear anything mentioning like batch leads, going for off-market deals. Is that not part of your repertoire? You're just the two you described, is it?
Yes. So I have students who will do the list, who will do tremendous amounts of cold calling and succeed with it. I personally just don't have the patience, nor do I want to run that big of a team. And so for me, it's about paying great money for quality leads rather than calling thousands of people. So we're calling for sale by owner properties that are for sale by owner. Occasionally we talk to realtors, MLS listings, but majority for sale by owner, outbound, and then get people calling us through either mailings, through posting online, through whatever resources, ways we can get them calling us. And quite frankly, regardless of how you find the sellers, it comes down to two parts: motivated sellers who need to sell for whatever reason. Sometimes that's debt release. Sometimes I just want to make more money over time. Sometimes it's just wanting the ease of selling without having to list and go through all the rigmarole of inspections and crap. So whatever the seller's motivation is, a seller who's ready to sell, and match that with someone who knows how to offer creative finance, someone who knows the right questions to ask. Because I don't make offers. I ask the seller what they need and they tell me. And if I can provide it, I provide it to them.
Interesting. Okay. I would really love to be a fly on the wall just with that conversation. Could you go a little like deeper into that? Like what, give me like a common example of what a seller is looking for and how you how you give them that.
Yeah. So the conversation might be, let's just imagine that you, Trevor, have a house you want to sell. It's been on the market for 90 days and I see that, and I'm on Facebook Marketplace or Zillow or wherever you've got it posted, and I call you and I say, Trevor, my name's Andrew and I was interested in your house. I've seen it here on Zillow. You got a couple minutes? You're going to say yes usually. And then I'm going to say, well, I see the house, the pictures, whatever. So I build 30 to 60, sometimes 90 seconds of rapport. And I'm going to say, well, Trevor, usually the way it works is we agree on a price now and we close whenever you want. And then we just simply send you a check until we pay you off in full at an agreed time in the future. Would that be something you would be willing to entertain? And That's how the conversation starts. And if you say no, say, okay, if you don't mind me asking, why not? Because sometimes no is the answer for I don't get what you're asking me. And other times no is because they've got to have their cash to do something else or whatever that may be, right? So that's okay too. That's the majority of the people that we just aren't able to work with. We don't pay cash full retail for houses. We either pay cash way below value or we buy with payments, typically with terms. So I'm going to follow the question up. I'm going to find out what your debt is on the property, what your payment is, why you're selling, and just delve into that motivation a little bit. And then if you're open to terms, then there's three major things that we're always going to cover. And of course, for my students and the people I work with and my partners, we all have teams who do that front end pre-screening for us. And now I even have a team who does the closing for me. And so the follow-up call is always going to be the same. What's the least they'll take on price? What's the least they'll take as far as monthly payments till we pay them off in full? And then what's the least they'll take down?
Got it. Okay. All right. That is, man. All right. So now what are you find those three pieces of information out. Now, what are you looking for? How do you determine if it's a deal you're going to do?
So, yeah, it depends on the property. So, for example, let's imagine that property you've on the market for 90 days, you're asking above retail. Well, I might be okay with paying above retail as long as you sell me the property with nothing down and a very low monthly payment, right? Because now I can cash flow the heck out of the property for a long time until I regain equity. But let's say that you need $50,000 in your pocket up front and you're asking $900 and it's worth $900. Well, if I'm going to write a $50,000 check up front, now I'm going to need some equity on the back end in return. So I'm going to get a lower price. So I look at every deal as 3 paydays, the front end, the middle end, and the back end. Usually I buy with nothing down. The monthly payment I want as low as possible, and the purchase price, well, I do pay retail sometimes, I want as low as possible. So as long as two of those three are really good or one is like phenomenal, then I'm doing the deal. But obviously, if you want 900,000, it's worth 900,000. You want a monthly payment the market barely supports. I can barely cover it with rent, and you want 10 or 20% down. Well, that's not a deal for me.
Gotcha. And so it sounds like, I mean, a lot of this, it sounds like it really hinges on can it cash flow, right? To capture that back end or to even make up for the front end, if I'm reading
Exactly
you right.
right.
Like, okay. So how are you, what kind of margin are you? Are you like looking for a return on your upfront cash? Are you looking for some type of margin above and beyond your monthly payment? What are you looking for there?
Yeah, so I always look at it this way. I lease options, so I do some short-term rental stuff, but majority of my business is selling properties on lease option. After I buy them on owner finance, I sell them on lease option. Unless any of our listeners are in Texas, then you're going to sell them on owner finance. But I normally sell them on lease option, and I know about what I usually get down non-refundable option deposit the day that my tenant buyer moves in. So after I buy the house, I'm going to turn around and find somebody, a family who needs a home, who for whatever reason can't qualify for a mortgage. Maybe they're newer to the job, they need your tax returns, they're self-employed. Maybe they had a medical challenge and it dinged their credit. For whatever reason, they can't qualify for a traditional bank loan, and of course, in the current market, all sorts of reasons. And they have money up front. They give me money the day they move in, and then they pay me a monthly rental payment. They take care of the house as if it's theirs. And then, of course, I mark up the price of the house. And that's where my profit comes in the back end. So what I look for when I'm buying a house is know my exit strategy. If I'm buying it for a short-term rental, well, I want to be able to still make good money. Okay, so if I'm doing it as a short-term rental, I, for example, might be willing to put a little more down because I know I'm going to cash flow better. Except I always ask the same question, and I recommend everybody else does too. Can I make good money with bad numbers? In other words, if everything goes to crap, for whatever reason, I cannot short-term rental it as I hope that I did. Maybe there's a rule against that. Maybe I can't Airbnb in that area or something. Can I still turn around and make this thing into a beautiful profit that I'll be glad I have the property? The answer is yes, then I want to do the deal. The answer is no, well, I'm going to rethink doing the deal or renegotiate it to where the answer is yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Man, that sounds like incredibly simple. It makes really clear sense. I don't understand why everyone's not doing it. I almost don't understand why I'm not doing it. Honestly, Andrew. Um, I tell you what, man, I'm really curious, for people that might want to get into this, I'd really love to maybe go take a step back and like, you were 22, you owned 50 houses in that first year. Like, I want to hear a little bit more about that. How did you get started and get to that point so quickly?
Yeah, for me, Trevor, education has been the key. And that is to find the right guide, to find the right mentor. Everybody here listening to us today are here because they're smart. They know that by listening to you, by listening to the various ways you put this out, the podcast, that they're gaining knowledge. And so they're educating themselves. So our listeners are listening, gathering knowledge, and that's what I started doing at 21. I was broke. I was just lived in the country. I was a country boy outside of the city. The city nearby that we lived close to was 400 people, and so I was raised on a farm and done construction. And when I started to really research this, I was blown away at the opportunity. And there's two ways we can look at things. I've had people look at education and go, well, I'll just figure it out myself. And the same people looked at me 2 years later when I'm buying a house a week and says, how in the world did you do this at 22? It's like, because I didn't figure it out myself. I borrowed the money. For me, it was to go to a seminar. I went to a live seminar and borrowed all the money I could borrow to get a mentor, to get a coach and start learning. And I just started implementing So for really diving in, for anybody starting out, I say find a strategy and stick to it. There's so many cool ways to make money in real estate, and there's so many places to shiny object syndrome ourselves. And we just have to find a path and stick to it. Decide where we want to go. If you want to build a portfolio using creative terms, then just surround yourself in creative real estate training for the next 60 days, 90 days. Just eat, breathe it, sleep it, listen to it, and pick up the phone and start calling sellers and ask them. It's okay if you screw it up at first. What I started doing, I started dialing on Craigslist. I started dialing on Facebook. I started dialing on Zillow. I started putting out bandit signs. I started putting out cards. I started putting out flyers at gas stations. I buy houses and just doing anything I could that was free or cheap to see if I could scrape together a deal, and then another deal, and then another deal. And then the snowball starts to build. Momentum takes place. Before you know it, deals you were following up on 3 months ago that said no are now calling you back going, please take my house. Nothing down.
My goodness, man. Andrew, dude, like, I knew when I first started talking to you that you just had nothing but gold to offer. And in the short time we've been talking, that's all you've delivered. And for the audience out there, thank you for bearing with us. We, we're 22 minutes into this, but this is probably zombied together at a 10-minute, as the connection kind of broke off a couple times and we had to reconnect. But just like what we were talking about to me was too important to even stop and start over or reschedule for another time. And I'm going to make sure that this disclosure is at the front because, like, man, like you just gave out so much value in such a short period of time. Like I feel like I have enough information to just throw this out after, we kind of chop it up a bit and get it in front of people so that they can hear it. And I want them, if anyone is moved by this and wants to dive in on it, because the shiny object syndrome, like I get it. And that's really the answer to like why I'm not doing this right now. The path I'm going down, I'm very excited about, and I need to focus 100% on it. But for those that see this as an opportunity they have the time to commit to, Andrew, how do they get in touch with you for coaching?
Yeah, go to andrewschlag.com, andrewschlag.com. That's my name, first name, and last name is SCHLAG. And of course, you can follow me on the social medias. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok, wherever else they put me, YouTube. But there's just never been a better time to be in this game than right now. Houses are sitting on the market longer, rates are rising, and I want nothing less for you guys than to have about, and this is scare somebody, than have $3 or $4 or $5 or $10 million in debt over the next 12 months that not personally guaranteed and is locked in at 3% interest because you're taking over debts that happened years ago. So that's what I want for you guys. Go out and make some money. Go out and do some deals. And I just want to say thank you, Trevor, for having me on. I apologize that I'm not in the office today, so I've had these connection problems, but it's just been such a fun time hanging out with you, man. I look forward to seeing you again very soon.
Absolutely, Andrew. No, it's all good. All that means is we just got to do it again another time. But like, again, thank you for the gold. I'll make sure that your information you just out is also posted on my social when I post this up, so that people can just click and visit you and get in touch with you if they need to. But man, thank you for the conversation.
Absolutely, I appreciate it, brother. We'll talk again very soon.
Absolutely. All right, man. Have a good one.